Hi, everyone. We're so glad you're joining us, and we're looking forward to talking about training, which is really the core of what we do. Just real quickly, we're going to go through the agenda here. A lot of times people think tune-ups are just for cars and machinery at a plant. It's actually pretty important to tune up your skills of all of your employees as well. Talking about. Along with that, there's some real hidden costs of training, and we'll look at some of those, as well as the benefits for providing training and on-the-job support in terms of tangible and intangible benefits. We'll then go on through and talk about different learning styles, print and online, and how having that available and on-the-job support really enhances skills within your organization. And that really, all of those things help really boost your bottom line, and we'll show you how that happens. One of the things that is key that we're talking about is Oracle's User Productivity Kit and touching upon User Productivity Kit Professional. That's a tool offered by Oracle for e-learning development. It can be used for other things. So we'll talk about that as well and how it really fits into providing cost-effective training and on-the-job support. Al will be doing a demo of UPK, a short demo for those of you who haven't seen it, or to show you some of the things that you can do with it. We'll give you a few final takeaways and let you know a little bit more about who Intelligo and TeamCain are. And we'll have, as Mike had indicated, a question and answer session at the end. We'll also have a couple of question and answer sessions, opportunities to ask questions in the middle of the presentation. And so please go ahead and enter your questions as we proceed. Go ahead, Al. Okay, it's amazing that people buy cars or you invest a lot of money for machinery at a plant, and you realize that if you don't go in for oil changes or you don't schedule your plant routine maintenance as well as handling, the emergency flat tires or the emergency problems at a plant, that you can't be very productive and that you're wasting a big initial investment that you make. And while people always know that on the bottom line it's important to maintain your machinery, it's equally important to maintain the skills of those people that are operating those machines and the computer systems and doing business inside your organization. What we find out as a training organization, and we've been a training organization for 20 years, is that that companies often measure saying, how much does this training cost, rather than really looking at training as being an investment, which really has a big return. Just like an investment you make when you buy a car or you invest in building a plant, you have to maintain that investment or it degrades over time and costs larger money in the it costs more money in the long term. And that is true of the skills for the folks in your organization as well. So if you fail to invest in training, and if you don't look at it as an investment instead of just as an upfront cost, then there are a lot of hidden costs that you're really incurring along the way. And often those are invisible. You pay somebody a salary, but you don't realize how much decreased productivity and mistakes are really costing the organization as a whole. So we'll talk about that. In addition, employee satisfaction, one of the key factors about how satisfied employees are is how well they understand their job or how much they're frustrated by it. And lower satisfaction equals higher turnover. And it costs a lot of money to hire and retrain employees. And retraining often doesn't happen if you don't have a training and on-the-job support system in place. And it's hard to measure, but when you lose a customer or you lose sales, that a lost sale is maybe a one-time event. A lost customer can be a bigger financial impact. So those are some of the impacts of dealing with the failure to train, and we'll look at some of those costs a little bit more. One of the things people are focused on training often in an ERP arena, that, oh, it's a one-time event, we're putting in a system or we're upgrading a system and now we're going live. So everybody needs to be trained and then the need goes away. But the truth is, a single training event, people forget, and people don't do certain things very often, and they need to be reminded. And then, of course, you have job change and new hire situations, as well as changes within your organization, and sometimes acquisitions or divestitures, things like that. So all of these, really, it's more like an oil change and keeping your tires inflated. If you make training and support available in an effective way on an ongoing basis, you will maintain your human capital a lot more cost effectively, and you will also operate a lot more cost effectively. Okay, Al? What we're finding is obviously there's different effects of having some challenging financial times, which we've had over the last couple of years. Although we're seeing, you know, companies are coming out of this and getting more optimistic. But at the same time, when companies are looking at reducing costs, especially during an implementation or upgrade, and sometimes as upgrades go long, it looks like training is usually one of the first things to go. And they're saying, we're saving money. But this is kind of a false economy. It's really costing some serious money in the long term. Not only are implementations and upgrades sometimes endangered, and the effectiveness of the system endangered by not doing training, there are a lot of reasons that training can cost the organization. So the reason it's cut is the cost to develop and deliver training is visible, but often the cost of failing to do that is a hidden cost, but it can be a very significant cost. Just for an example, if somebody in your organization earns $50,000 a year and they waste 1 hour a day, it would cost the organization over $6,000 a year. Just in the time lost. And if you consider, well, gee, let's multiply that by one department or one group of people, maybe 25, you're up over $150,000 per year. And that's not including benefits, overhead, or lost opportunity costs, opportunities to do other more value-added things. Go ahead, Al, to the next slide. And let's look at how much time that could be. So if you say, well, gee, 25 people, and you know they've wasted $150,000 in loss of productivity this year, that can be due to fixing mistakes that were unnecessary to fix had they been done correctly. It can be some of these facts, according to Gartner. It takes untrained users up to 5 times longer to complete a task than trained users. 5 times longer. That's pretty staggering statistics, but it's true. And often, even when it takes them longer, it's not done correctly. So untrained users make costly mistakes, and somebody has to fix those. At the same time, untrained users call the help desk more often. In fact, they take 3 to 6 times more support than trained users. So these are some things that can really be measured and tallied within organizations, and they've been very true to our experience of companies that have actually come to us after the fact requesting training when they're trying to deal with some of these problems and some of these hidden costs. So there's other factors to consider, and these vary some by each organization. What does it cost to lose a customer or a lost sale? And there's a very direct link between lack of training and customer service. Often, if a customer gets the wrong answer to a question, they get the wrong order, they get the wrong, they don't perceive that they're getting the quality of service and that there are mistakes made, it really affects overall your sales. We've already talked about lower employee satisfaction. We recently did a needs assessment at a company where they had 100% turnover in their centralized financial area. And there were only about 12 people in that central financial area, so it wasn't a huge organization, but they'd had 100% turnover in the year. And the biggest reason for that is people didn't understand how to operate their existing, it happened to be a J.D. Edwards system, because they'd all been hired and had not really been trained. So they kind of went through the motions, but they were very frustrated and overworked, and it would take them 2 or 3 weeks to close. Imagine the loss of time there just through lack of training. Baby boomers are also retiring. That's been slowed some by the economic downturn, but the fact is baby boomers are getting older and they're going to be leaving, and it's very important that your organization doesn't lose the knowledge, that training really maintains that knowledge within your organization. When anybody, whether it's a baby boomer or somebody that finds a new job, walks out the door, you want to be able to train people cost effectively, and you want to be able to maintain your knowledge. So one-time training really degrades over time. You find that first person might have gotten good training with the system rollout, and then they train somebody else, and then somebody else comes, and then they leave, and then somebody else comes on board. And with each person who's trained by another person, often there's some loss of knowledge. So and that loss of knowledge could be as much as 20 or 30%. So really training degrades over time if you don't have something in place. Okay, Al? Some of these same studies really show, and our experience shows, that you really get big employee productivity increases. And you increase employee retention up to 70% when people are more satisfied and feel like they're supported in their jobs and they know what they're doing. And it does dramatically lower customer complaints. So what does it take to do effective training? Well, first of all, it has to be used. Training, if it's sitting on a shelf and it's a big, thick, dusty book that is really out of date, and most organizations have this, really does not provide any value. So training needs to be up to date. It needs to include business processes as well as system tasks, because people don't want to spend time in training or doing a support solution unless they really feel it makes their jobs easier and it helps them understand what they're doing. So generally good training needs to have some concepts and step-by-step instructions, and as I said, it's got to be up to date, and it's got to be meaningful to the group of people. When you think about how big these ERP systems are, J.D. Edwards, E1 or World systems are really huge. Well, you tailor the menus so that they are specific to the user that is using them. And that's not just a security thing, but it's a real fact that you really only want a user to see what they're going to need to use. And that's really true in end-user training as well. So you need to have role-based training and enable them to really filter through all the information that's out there so they can hone in on just what they need to do on the job. So if sometimes when there's too much information out there that takes a lot of time to filter through, that takes time and wastes money, and it also frustrates people. So you might have good training out there, but if it's not role specific and if it's not just focused down to what they need to know, people will get frustrated and leave. It's really important that it's available when and where it's needed. And different people learn in different ways. Some people learn really well with online learning, and a greater percentage of people are doing that, and they prefer that. Some people, and especially high volume areas and in a warehouse, really want a printed quick reference card. A salesperson that's looking at something that they need, a job aid, that's what they need on the job. Some other people need detailed step-by-step instructions in a book. Some training can be done in the classroom. Some can be done virtually. And then people, when they forget something, they need a place to look quickly and find the information. Or they will go ask somebody else or call the help desk. And you just don't know whether or not, especially if they ask, somebody else that's sitting next to them, that may or may not be the right answer. So it's nice to have standard training out there and make it available to people when and where they need it. And then also it's got to be cost effective to develop and maintain. And you've got to be able to do it rapidly because our ERP systems change rapidly. And our configuration changes rapidly, so you can meet new business needs. Al? Just real quickly, UPK, and this slide actually comes right out of Oracle because they like to tout the real key benefits of UPK, and I think correctly so. User Productivity Kit and UPK, and we'll also talk about UPK Professional. It is a tool that allows you to basically create e-learning content from a single recording. You can add additional content to it. You can then produce printed materials for training guides if you want to do some training in the classroom. You can produce other kinds of step-by-step instructions, job aids, but probably most importantly, you get to have a simulated e-learning environment where people can watch and get hands-on practice, test themselves, or their managers can see that they've gone through the training and understand it, and then they can get the do-it help, context-sensitive help that pops up over their screen, and also get printable help. So really, you can do all of those things. In addition, some clients use it for user acceptance test scripts, occasionally for CRP test scripts and things like that. And we often find that that's much more useful in upgrade scenarios than in initial rollouts where everything is changing very rapidly. Okay, Al? Just real quickly, we'll be talking about some of these components of UPK and UPK Professional. Just so you'll know what it is, and we'll be focusing on User Productivity Kit. The User Productivity Kit has several components. It's got a developer where you build content and you publish it. And if you're going to consider an e-learning training and support solution with User Productivity Kit, you would need to purchase licenses from Oracle, and generally one license per content developer. Over and above that, there is a UPK player, and we'll be showing you that. And that's where end users access the learning content or the on-the-job support material. You can link it into your JD AdWords, PeopleSoft, or eBusiness Suite applications, or you can put it in your portal as well to make it available for on-the-job support. Usage tracking also comes with UPK. It basically shows how users are, how much users are using the e-learning or support tools. That's really what it was designed to do. If you don't have UPK Professional, you can also track test results from the Know It tests. So if you want to see that your users have, how much time different users have spent in the training and what their scores were on the various Know It tests that you've got in there, and then you can use usage tracking. User Productivity Kit Professional is basically UPK, so it's everything on the top part of the slide, plus Knowledge Pathways. Knowledge Pathways is not really a learning management system, but it does give you some capabilities of that. It really lets you take UPK content and other content to deliver role-based courses. So you can easily add self-checks, true, false, multiple choice questions, assessments, things like that. And it has enhanced reporting for management. So with UPK, you get a player file with all the content that you can filter down to see what you need, or you can get context-sensitive help. If you deploy it through knowledge pathways, you basically give users directed learning. So you say, here's the courses that you need to take, and here's where you are at each course. So that's really what knowledge pathways allows you to do. Okay? Al. Just wanted to give you a little, some few comments that other organizations have said about the benefits of using UPK. That university said they felt they gained 100% of their return on investment within 6 months of using UPK, and that their help desk calls went down by 45% over the first year. So they felt that really it had paid off in the long term there. Major electronics company changed from doing classroom training where they would fly people into local regional offices. This is actually a global company, and they had huge travel costs to deliver training. And they used UPK to deploy training, and they really decreased their travel. They actually almost completely eliminated it, did some virtual training and e-learning. And they saw in their Siebel application, which they were rolling out, a big jump in people using it. And they saw better data and accuracy and better pipeline visibility. So they were gaining the benefits actually from the application just because people began using it and understood it, and they had better information. You do get lower IT costs, lower support costs, and firms find that. We work with a high-tech firm that was especially pleased that people could get training when they wanted it instead of having to book time with a trainer. And they felt that they could come up to speed. Very well fit for a high-tech firm whose people like to do online training. So again, that was a good fit there. And then other organizations find that you get increased productivity by keeping people on the job. Now that's a little bit of an overstatement, I think, because people still need the time to do the learning. If they're doing it, they need some time away from their desks and away from the phone and away from other meetings to be able to focus on the learning. But because you can do a lot of it at your desks or in virtual training, then you don't have to take big blocks or days out of the office, and you can fit it more easily into user schedules. So that's another value that organizations say. Okay, Al? Before we dive into the UPK demo, people often, especially during a rollout or upgrade, do multiple training events, and they advertise it, and that's fine. Al, go ahead. But over time, with each training event, the repetition increases your knowledge, so your competency grows. But you also have a little bit of a fall off, and you forget. If you have a training system that allows you to get the help online when you need it, when you're working in the application, when you can go out and learn something that you haven't known before or that you forgot, and if you have printed documents that are available to you, either in a job aid or step-by-step instructions, detailed instructions, they find that with all of those different kinds of support for the different ways that people learn, you really get the biggest retention and the fastest competency. You know, you get to that competent level much faster. And UPK does this real well. Al? We'll do a quick poll here. Mike?
Hi, Mary. Yeah, I'm going to just launch, for the people in the session, I'm just going to launch a quick poll question here. Pretty simple, multiple choice answer, and you can just pick one of them. While the poll is up and people are putting their votes in, we will also at this point in time be stopping for any questions that have come in. So in addition to responding to the poll, certainly if you have any questions based upon what Mary has discussed at this point in time with regards to UPK in general, training benefits, how training can improve your organization, and Intelligo's experiences with training, certainly J.D. Edwards customers and other ERP customers, by all means put the questions in, and we will respond to as many as we can. So everybody's voted in here, so I'm going to close and share the results here. And Mary, I'm not sure about from your side, but I think certainly for ourselves in dealing with J.D. Edwards customers, the results, which is 86% of the people have heard about UPK but are not really familiar with it, and 14% are familiar with it and are using it. Thankfully, nobody has not heard of it whatsoever, so not abnormal, I think, from certainly what we've seen in discussions with organizations.
Yeah, that's great.
The questions that have come in so far, one is, can UPK be used as a repository for other types of documents? So in addition to, and I had asked for clarification, received it, in addition to the training aids and everything else that you can create through UPK, can you also put other documents into the training? For example, a PDF, an image file, an Excel document, a Microsoft Word document.
Absolutely. We'll show a couple of these in our sample demo. You can either include them in the player, or you can link to them if you have them elsewhere on a website or on a location where people use it. One of the building companies we worked with put Excel spreadsheets out there that their project managers use that they could pull down and actually save, and they use other tools out there as well. So making it a one-stop location so users know where to go to get information, and you can link to other areas or pull in other materials is absolutely what we recommend, and you can definitely do that.
That's great. Thanks, Mary. No other questions in at this point, so I think we are okay to carry on. People on the webinar, by all means, as mentioned before, if you have questions, feel free to submit them, and we will be stopping again for more questions. So back over to yourself and to Al. Mary?
Okay, great. And I had to hit maximize in the corner of my screen, so if you can't see the whole screen, please go ahead and do that. This is actually, I want to attribute this to Oracle. This is one of Oracle's slides that they have been using, but I think it really explains, since we're talking about their tool, that really one recording can produce multiple outputs, and we'll actually show this to you. The most useful things that we find are really the simulations or the online learning, which is in the various modes. So when you see at the bottom of that sunburst or flower, you see the do it, the know it, the try it, the see it, and then the print modes. Those are the online and the print outputs you get from single recordings. Also, above the printed is a user manual and an instructor manual. So again, you can get all those various outputs from a single recording. On the upper right side, there are test scripts and output to HP Quality Center. I just wanted to emphasize that those are good outputs, and we have actually trained test script developers so that they develop test scripts effectively, rapidly, and in a standardized way so that they can be leveraged for end-user training and other things later. But I do want to emphasize that these are manual test scripts. So people see HP Quality Center and think, oh, great, we're going to get an automated test script out of this. No, you can get a test script just in Word that people can run through in user acceptance test or conference room pilot, or you get one that can be brought into HP Quality Center as a manual script. So can get various other documentations and job aids and outputs from it. But this is really one recording that you can leverage in a lot of different ways, so that increases value overall. I will mention just before we move on that test scripts, we found them used very useful if people put in a learning solution that they then are going to do an upgrade, and you've kept this up to date. You really have a complete list of all the transactions or the major transactions that your users are doing. Creates a good repository for test scripts going forward, or a good way to produce them. Go ahead, Al. And UPK has been used by a few people to capture best practices early in the cycle. This is usually they're leveraging some standard content. We don't find that as widely used. Al, this is again an Oracle slide, but we just wanted to point out some key things to focus on should you see this. You can document system processes and business procedures. In fact, we recommend including that in your SIMs, but you'll get that as output. You can create test scripts, and we have sometimes done that on the front end when people are implementing or upgrading, and the core team members record it. You can teach them an abbreviated course for recording, and then you can leverage those for end-user materials. Often we do find that test scripts are not as valuable on the front end because things change so rapidly. So sometimes you might want to wait until things are a bit more solid before using the tool for test scripts. Al? You can record and document transactional and conceptual information. This is probably the key use. When you create a recording, you create a simulation so people can practice and have it online whenever they need it, and you also get documents. And really for system training, it is really exceptional, but you can also do some soft skills training, and we definitely recommend putting in conceptual overviews so people understand not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it and how it fits into the big picture. Al? You definitely, when you record all this information, you need to publish it. We showed you on the previous slide all the different formats you can publish in, and again have indicated that's great for people that learn in different ways and need different kinds of support depending on what they're doing. Al? Again, one of the biggest uses, and I'd highlight that, is using UPK for employee self-service. People want to learn on their own, even if you provide some facilitated learning or training in a classroom. If you do it with UPK, they have something to go back to and review and reinforce. And if you remember that graph I showed you, people forget between the time they learned in a classroom and when they do it on the job. And repetition and being able to go back really increases competency. Al? Okay, you can deploy in-application support. This is probably one of the most underutilized features, which is that we really recommend our clients implement. People want help when they're working in an application, and if you enable context-sensitive help, you can you can get a user very directly from the whole UPK repository into just the application that they're using, so they can figure out what they need to do next. It's context sensitive, and because it knows which screen they are, and if you implement that, and we have seen it implemented, we're working to get it implemented right now in Hyperion, but it's been implemented in PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, eBusiness Suite, and certainly the latest versions of World as well. So it really is very valuable, and we recommend if you figure it out up front, do a little prototype or a little sample, and you hook it into a system so that your folks know how to do it. Then prior to go live or your upgrade, you will get it in place and it won't be a big problem. Al? You can publish the printable materials and use it in the classroom if you want to have some limited training environment under it. Al? And then you can track and measure the effectiveness of what people have learned. This is really talking about the know-it mode, that you can see that they understand and can perform the task. And you can also include some true, false, and multiple choice, either in UPK or in knowledge pathways. Knowledge pathways will allow you to track and measure a little better. Finally, you can manage and update content and business as business processes change. There's some really rapid update capabilities in UPK. So the key things are, use it for end-user training, make sure you deploy in-application support, and then really make sure you maintain your investment and you can use it on an ongoing basis. And that's how you really drive value with a tool like that. Okay, Al? I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, I'm going to have Al go through a quick demonstration, and then we'll do a quick question and answer. And I want him to show you actually how some of these things happen within UPK and how you can make UPK a central learning and go-to support site. Al, go ahead. We're running short.
Okay. Okay, for those who have already seen this, I'll make my apologies right up front. For the other ones, I'm just going to go through the functionality, some of the functionality of the player. As we talked about earlier, you got two sections, the developer, which creates all this, and you can create, as you see here on this left side, whatever structure you want. Basic structure, for those of who already use this, know that we do the module section and topic. So if we start at the modules area, that becomes your big, okay, what's the big thing about this System Basics 1? We have a discussion about it, and this actually slide was created in PowerPoint and imported in. So that answers the one question we had about importing other type of software outputs. And you can see this, we've brought in some of the Excel spreadsheets that people look at. We go into the section area, the same thing here, but the section area is a lot of times we put in a lot of information, maybe a big process flow of more of how working, in this case working with records, how that would work throughout your system. So you create this in a cascading mode so that when you get down into the actual topic area, you have an introduction, and in this introduction most of the time it's verbiage, but we have included even a smaller portion of a process flow. So you take a PowerPoint or if you use your process flows or in Word, you cut and paste and you put it into this area of the screen so that the end user has, oh, I've looked at System Basics 1 over here, I'm looking at working records, oh, now I'm getting down to the actual topic that I need to know what it's all about. You can be as creative as you want in putting in the information, make this where it will scroll down the page for as long as you need to get the information out to the end user. As you can see, when we were in the module section, we didn't have anything at the top. But when we get into the topic level, that's now where we have our different modes we can do. And those of us who have developed here know that, oh, well, sometimes you may not need a see it or a do it mode, so you can select that in your developer not to show up in this particular topic. So you can be as creative as you need to be to match the needs of your end user or what your managers say the end users need. As you can see, in this one here we have all the modes shown. It's a simple matter of the end user saying, okay, that's the right title, let me look at it. The see it is the one where we'll click on it and you sit back, relax, and it runs yourself through yourself. You don't have to do anything except follow the screen. Hopefully they don't fall asleep on these things, so that's why you now have the try it mode, which is very similar to what they just will have seen in the see it, but now they have to do the actual action. And we'll do this one real quick. Now, it's a simple matter of them clicking on the screen and following the prompts. Here it is. You explain what you're going to be doing in this one here, and it tells them press enter or click continue, and you're off and running. And depending on what you set your timing at is what it'll do. Now, if this one says you're going to click the find button, you see the cursor come scrolling across. And it would enter in all that stuff. I'm going to go ahead and kill it because you can see that it's just a, watching the TV screen form. And there is some value in it. You can create these where it's not just doing a process, but you can actually have them to look at a process information. So they read the entire screen, maybe see a graph that you've put in the background. And I'll do it here, this other one. This is different. This one doesn't have, this one they have to read the screen on each one of these and then move along. Or this is actually timing, or you can have it where they can click it, they can stay on the screen as long as they want, and they can move on. This one takes too long to time out, but my example is, you can see you just use a screenshot that you created somewhere else. And there it is, same thing. Okay, I'll go ahead and kill that. Let's go back to here. So you've done that, but then you say, well, you know, some of these we don't really want them to do this to see it. We want to force them to go ahead and do the triad mode. So they actually, this is where they get the hands-on experience. And hands-on experience for those of us who have done any training to realize that, hey, that's where they're going to get some feel and comfortable with it. Now they can sit on this screen all day long and look at it and play with it, but it's not going to do anything until they actually do the action. So they can read in here, continue, continue. And this one here talks about, it explains all this. Now they've got to click in the field, and they have to, it tells you what you want to do is use the greater than sign in this one, so it tells you exactly what you have to do. And once you actually do that, I'll do it. If you do an error, it just stops. You have to make sure you do it and moves on. So that's a very simplified showing of what the triad mode will do, and it's a valuable learning tool that they can do either at their desk. They can do it on a assigned time frame when they go in and do their e-learning, or if you have it in the classroom with part of a blended solution where you're doing some classroom or stand-up demonstrations, or you actually have them running through the simulations. Let me see. I'm going to switch back real quick here. The reason is that this one goes a little quicker. The know it mode is where you can test them on their knowledge. The know it mode is something that you can use to have them do and track and usage tracking to see, okay, what they finished and how they finish it by a grade standard that is determined by you. 80% is what this one is set out. If you want to be really hard on them and you can say 90, 95%, you're certainly welcome to do that. And it tells you to search for these pages. Well, what do you need to know? They've already gone through the see and try, so they know that that's what they have to go do, and they have to click in the right spot. And if you don't click on the right button, it'll give you an error, and you can tell them how many times that they get an error out before it forces them to move on. Type evolution. And at the end of this, it will give you a grade and everything else on that. So that's the see it, try it, and know it. And those are the main modes you'll see. The do it mode is used when you're actually on the system and you bring this up and you're locating, viewing payments, and you forgot maybe a step to do. So if you click on the do it mode while in your system, it'll bring up a smaller screen on your system to say, oh, you need to click in this field, which is a very good thing for a lot of people to, just as a quick reminder to do. One of the more valuable things, though, that they can do is if you say, oh, well, you know, I've seen this, but I can't remember, or do I have to write all this stuff down? If you give them the print it mode, it will create for them a job aid in the system. Now, this job aid looks better than the Oracle one because Intelligo has gone through and modified the template, which you can do yourself, which makes it a little cleaner for you to use. Notice that it's text. There's no pictures, screenshots, unless you choose to add some in through whatever method you have. So that's the job aid produced out of that. I'm going to jump back up here again, if you'll excuse me. Also within, besides the printed, we just saw that was a job aid. If you created and published from your developer a training guide, or we call them work instructions, you can take that and link it in to the topic, where you can link it in at the module or at the section level over here, so that someone can say, well, what do I have? You can actually create this whole thing in one big manual and link it in at some level, and they can click on it and see it. In this case here, I'll just show you real quickly that that's too big to see. That we have a training guide that we have changed into a work instruction, and you can see it takes all the information from that UPK that you developed, screenshots. You can designate how many screenshots, which screenshots come in. That should look familiar. We saw that screen. and it gives a little more explanation about it, and it gives the actually action steps we had in there for them. Okay, so real quickly, that's the structure you can do. On accounts payable, as you can see, we only have one up here, but if you wanted to say, well, what kind of structure can I actually create in there? Well, here is a developer, and under procurement, you can see you can have an introduction, you can do requisitions, you can do quotes, you can blanket orders, and purchase order management, however you want to do it for your different modules underneath that. There is no one set standard way of doing UPK. A lot of it is your creativity. A lot of it can be driven by your company standards, whether the text standards, the little logos up here. You can over here a standard picture, and this side of the screen is the Oracle building. And if you don't care for it, put your own building in there. The last thing I want to show you about this is, when you create this UPK player, you can create everything that you've done in UPK and have it on one player. And that's okay unless you're going to separate a separate player for, say, HR and payroll, because they have some procedures that you may not want other people to know about. But you can take the same player and say, well, we're going to use it for multiple people, but because it's easier to publish one player than one for AP and one for AR and then one for the warehouse people or the buyers. In this case here, you set it by the roles in the developer. In this case here, when I click here, you can see there's no role specifically picked. If I was to choose the buyer role, okay, I want you to note that the buyer probably doesn't care about accounts payable unless he's unusual, or she. So if we click on buyer, now we don't have an AP for them to see. They don't have to worry about looking at it and everything else. And you say, well, oh, well, I picked my wrong role. Well, you can go back and pick it again, or you can just deselect it and get everything back. So in a quick nutshell, that is some of the flexibilities within UPK. You can put in assessments, and you can put in just documents such as this frequently asked questions, where you say, okay, I'm going to slow down some of my calls to my help desk. So within UPK, in whatever area you want to put it, whether it's System Basics 1, or you can have this out as a separate module of frequently asked questions, where they can say, oh, I want to ask a question, and they can click on it, and it goes down to wherever it is. Like, why are the UPK fields case sensitive? Okay, if I click on that, they can find it here. There's the answer, whatever answer you have for your company. So it can be as long or short as you want. Quick reference can be the same thing. You can just, for this whole System Basics 1, we took everything and made it another PDF, but it's all of them put together as to how it all works. So within the module section or topic, you can link to any document. You can also link to another place on your intranet. You can publish these player out as one player, like I said. Multiple players, you can publish it out to a standalone that you can burn off to a CD and send it off to some remote location you have, because that one person needs the information, and all they have is a PC. Okay. With that, we'll, let me see if we can get back here. Turn it back over to Mary.
Okay. That sounds good. Let's go ahead and move. We're running. We'll catch the Q&A in just a minute. Go ahead, Al. Just real quickly, just some final takeaways. Failing to provide training and support really has some high hidden costs, and we talked about some of those up front. If you're going to look at implementing a good training and support solution, it's really important to consider the tools that are best to use within your organization, and determine whether UPK or UPK Professional are a really good fit. I can't stress enough, you need to keep the content current so it's meaningful to employees, and it's got to be rapid to develop and easy to maintain. Those are some capabilities that UPK has, which is why we use it a lot. You need to consider doing a cost-benefit analysis and training needs assessment. That will help provide a roadmap for your organization, and say, where would we get the biggest value, the biggest bang for our dollar, if you will, for our training dollar, and where would we see the biggest improvement. So often we find companies put in a baseline structure and some content in their biggest areas of need, and then over time they fill that in and enhance it. So that's a really good way to proceed. We can help you do that. We do provide a 5-day needs assessment at no charge. And to help you look at, is UPK a good fit, or some other tool would be better. UPK is a great tool, so we often recommend it for organizations of different sizes. And it also looks at your training and support needs, key areas where you need change, and provides some recommendations and benefits for moving through that and different ways to handle it. So it's an overall roadmap. Al? Just a little bit about Intelligo, 20 years. And we train UPK and UPK content. We provide end-user training. We provide training on JD Edwards and e-business suite and PeopleSoft for project teams as well. And for people that are upgrading from World to E1 or from, different versions within either World or Enterprise One, we do provide some net change training, and we can help people develop and deliver a solution like this. Okay, Al? We do have a lot of tools and templates in addition to a lot of JD Edwards and e-business suite and PeopleSoft knowledge. So we bring that when we help develop or co-develop. We also bring some content. Oracle has content that they do sell, and you need to take a look at how well you need to do a cost-benefit analysis on that. The financial areas are definitely more valuable than in the distribution and manufacturing, for the simple reason that financials are more standardized. You can't take that purchase content if you purchase it from Oracle and expect to use it for end users. You could use it for some core team training, but you're going to need to modify it to make it meaningful to your users with your data and your business processes. We've used UPK and UPK Professional for 8 years, and we've helped Oracle update their JD Edwards World and Enterprise One documentation materials. And we've partnered with TeamCain because we like to give complete solutions, high-quality solutions that really contribute to your success. So we focus on training, and they really are great at finding other ways for companies that are implementing and upgrading JD Edwards to really do that effectively. Okay? Want to mention, here's some of the companies we've done business with. UPK is not necessarily just for large organizations, although we do find that people with organizations that have 75 to 125, those are about the smallest numbers that we typically get, although we did have a construction company we did some materials for and co-developed with one developer on their team, and they used it to roll out to about 15 or 20 project managers who were, there was a lot of turnover in that area, and they were based remotely, and they needed to learn how to enter certain transactions. So it can be, depending on the need, it can be used by smaller organizations, and then it can also be used very effectively by global organizations because there's translation capabilities built in, and it makes it easy to roll it out globally as well. Okay, Al? I'll go ahead and turn this over to Mike Guerin of TeamCain.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Mary. We're just about at the home stretch, folks, so I would encourage you, if you do have any additional questions, to pop them into us. TeamCain has been a partner in the JD Edwards space since 1996. We are an Oracle Gold partner, and we are a Gold vendor member of Quest and are very active on Quest as well. In addition to doing all things consulting and services related for JD Edwards, so upgrades, migrations, we actually do reverse migrations from one World or Enterprise One back to World, as well as new module implementations, etc. We do represent a number of other class-leading products and solutions. Very specifically, we chose Intelligo consciously about 1.5 to 2 years ago. We evaluated the partners that were out there that provided training services and UPK services and decided, based upon the customer successes fit with the organization between TeamCain and the partner, and the feedback that we received in the general marketplace, that Intelligo was absolutely the right choice to go with. We have done training over the years, but the training, the way that Intelligo provides it, the scope of offerings and the depth of their services and knowledge is definitely something that we wanted to take advantage of. So they have been our training partner go-to for coming up on 2 years now. In addition, we are a master partner for ARC Tools and have been the main partner since day one for data file purging and archiving. We are also, and have been for about 8 years now, Bottom Line Technologies, one of their top partners for North America, and have done about a little over 100 implementations of their output management solutions. We are a main partner for Global Software for their Excel-based reporting and analytics solutions with direct integration and drill down into JD Edwards and pretty much any other ERP solution that is out there. We have been a main partner for RF Smart for about 9 years now. RF Smart has direct RF technology solutions that are directly integrated to JD Edwards, and that's both World and One World. Much like the training side, where the knowledge required to do a proper job is very specific, and we chose Intelligo, on the CNC side for Enterprise One clients, it's pretty much the same thing. And we have chosen to partner with ERP One as our technology service provider on the CNC side. They do migrations, upgrades, the whole 9 yards, as well as managed services. We do work with business intelligence tools. That's both Oracle's OBI products and other ones. We are a partner for Magic Software. Magic Software provides business process orchestration code-free tools, so integration between JD Edwards and other systems, as well as bolt-on development, and all in a manner that's code-free and independent. And one that we're quite proud of, we were recently announced as the main partner in the JD Edwards space for 3 Delta systems. Anybody that read the paper this morning would have noticed or saw in the news yesterday about Sony and the breach of their information. The 3 Delta solutions are geared to work with ERP vendors and provide protection for that, as well as reducing credit card fees that most organizations that accept credit cards will pay to their service providers, i.e. the banks. So overall for TeamCain, our focus is providing solutions that are very much JD Edwards centric, but that extend and increase the value and capabilities of the solutions for our customers. We are proud to have worked with hundreds of customers over, I think, 5 continents in our 15 years of business, and we're extremely proud of the partnership that we have with Intelligo. So that's the short one on TeamCain. Al, if you can advance. So that is the end of the presentation. A couple of minutes late, but I think we started a couple of minutes late as well. We'd certainly, if there's any last questions from anybody, we'd encourage you to answer them now. We will keep the screen up here and the session open for another minute or two. If you have any other questions, by all means, feel free to ask them. We will, as mentioned at the start as well, be sending out emails with links to the recording for the session for today, and encourage you to get back to us if you want a copy of the presentation itself as well. And we will certainly probably more so, Mary and her team from Intelligo will be following up with you to get your perspective on the presentation today and how you figure you might be able to extend the training capabilities within your own organization. The one last question that has come in, and I think we covered it off, Mary, but was can documents be independent of a recording? So, for example, could there be a PowerPoint or a movie file or something else that is part of the UPAK content that is not specifically tied to one of the recordings?
Could I answer that? The answer is what you saw in my presentation was we took a portion of a PowerPoint and put it within the UPK. You can also, by using the links, hyperlink a document, this location, so that they can click on it, just like where we said to do the for these, let me show it here, where we have here the System Basics 1 quick reference. You can have, company X's, clothing policy, dress code, and you click it on that, and you would have it hyperlinked out to your HR site, and then that way it's always updated to whatever the current process is for you, as an example.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Al. So safety training, WMIS information, company newsletter, all that sort of stuff can be referenced. And the advantage is, rather than embedding it in that case, you're actually linking out to where the main one is and making sure that it is always fresh and updated content then.
Correct.
Yep. You can choose to embed it if you want to. You can also include Flash, movies, various other things to use inside of UPK or link to it. So.
Okay, great. Thanks, Al and Mary. We have not had any other questions come in since we got to the end here, so I think we are good to go. With that, we will be finishing the session, the webinar for this afternoon. For everybody that took the time to attend, thank you very much for taking time out of your very busy days. We hope that you found the session to be helpful and informative and give you a bit of insight as to where the benefits for a proper training, education, and knowledge management setup can be within your organization. We very much look forward to hopefully having some continued discussions with each of you for how we can be able to assist you in this going forward. With that, we will end the presentation for the day, and thank you all very much for your time. Mary, Al, thank you very much for putting the presentation and for taking the time to share your knowledge and your experience on training and education, certainly within the J.D. Edwards space with the folks on the session today.
Thank you, and thanks everyone that joined us. We enjoyed it.